Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's episode of TruthBusters is brought to you by the eCam Network, the official product for all Triple T Radio.
All right, thank you everybody for joining us. You are listening to a live episode of the TruthBusters. It's not their truth you're going to hear, but the truth. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jon Stewart. With me, as always, the pilot of this crazy hyperbolic plane, Cueball Carmichael. And folks, we are coming to you in what seems to be the midst of maybe, quite possibly, and we don't hype anything here, quite possibly the greatest danger in the world today since maybe the Cuban Missile Crisis, certainly since World War II. We are neck deep, knee deep in the pool of the coronavirus, COVID-19, that since the week we have posted our last show, it is absolutely ravaging the world. Italy has shut down its entire country. Spain has followed. Of course, China still in a mass quarantine. Flights canceled to the United States, which all of us on the TruthBusters has applauded. It has gone off the charts. And what, again, it seems like the TruthBusters, Jon Stewart and Cueball Carmichael, are not prophets, but actually our prophecies are turning into our predictions are turning into prophecies. We told you 2 weeks ago that the stock market was going to collapse. Within 12 hours, it dove down 1,800 points. We told you that they were going to start canceling flights, that this was not going away. It is not going away. It has exploded in growth. Very scary times. I hate to say that the preppers were right, but we tell the truth here on the show. The preppers were right on the money. Q, I don't even know where there are Nick London, our producer, and Will Jones, our intern this week. I think I must add 250 photocopy papers all over my desk from the information coming in. You're on the East Coast. I mean, tell me what's going on in North Carolina, and you've got so many contacts in the military and law enforcement and the government, which makes you a valuable asset of the show. What say you?
Well, it's interesting, as you said, John, that on the 23rd of February, our predictions of this being a massive pandemic and shutdowns and the economy tanking is actually happening. And unfortunately, I would have loved to have been wrong in this situation, but I think both of us being business people, we saw this thing happening. And, the major, it's funny because when you hear something, you wait another hour and you hear another update and another update and another update.
Right.
So I think that it's very, very scary. And, we're in a situation now where, and I never really expected this to happen, but I actually saw today that in my rural town of 1,000 people in North Carolina, in the middle of nowhere, I mean, the closest city, Jacksonville, is 35 miles away. I seen the stores in my town be completely out of water, completely out of toilet paper. I stopped in the grocery store this afternoon here in town, and I've never seen more than 2 registers open. It's an IGA, it's the Independent Grocers Association chain of stores, which are typically privately owned and very small. And they had 5 registers open, and they had 5 cashiers there and baggers, and there were lines 10 people long at each register. And I went through the shelves and looked at the store, and it was absolutely looked like a post-apocalyptic movie that you'd see on Netflix late at night. I mean, it was that crazy here. And I saw something really interesting this week that a financial expert on CNBC said that the U.S. government should start giving each adult $1,000 a month.
Where are you going to spend it?
The economic loss.
Yeah.
So, that's what they did in China. In China, they handed out money to all the people in China, the government, because of the massive economic loss. And a classic example now is, it's no secret. Nick is very good at promoting it for me. Is my Amazon business is about to go on total hold because I believe that within the next 24 hours, Amazon will shut down every warehouse they have.
Well, Q, we have breaking news that before we went on the air. I got a call from an inside contact with Amazon. Folks, take this to the bank. They are cutting 70% of the routes for most of the drivers. Amazon hires a lot of independent trucking companies. I have verbatim factual evidence from somebody way high up on the food chain, so to speak. Amazon shutting down 60 to 70% of the routes because they have no product. Q, we've gotten reports from Las Vegas. The stores, the shelves are empty. San Francisco, we had an airline pilot phone in to our intern today. San Francisco is down. We've got Nick London now from Canada. I think it's going to be a very interesting what's going on up there because it's not the United States. Nick, are you with us? Can you tell us what's going on up there in Canada?
Well, I can tell you guys what's going on up here in Canada. Absolutely. I can start with this. Just now, at this very moment, my wife actually just showed me that it was breaking news that in Alberta, it's looking like they're going to be closing schools for the remainder of the year. So that's it. Here in New Brunswick, I know schools are closed for 2 weeks for right now. It'll be reassessed. I know all of our CHL, our Canadian Hockey Leagues, are all done. Anything to do with students in sports activities, all done. We've got next to no food left in our stores. We've got no toilet paper, no hand sanitizers. It is crazy out there, guys. You wouldn't believe it.
Well, Nick, Q and I talked about this last week. You want to tell, we have a very wealthy area 5 miles from me. It's called the North Shore. And, Wall Street, financial people, old money, the family that owns Oscar Mayer, Hot Dog, those type of old money families. And we talked on the show, what's going to make that executive and his penny loafers and Mercedes, basically take the streets, pitchfork and torch, so to speak. And we agreed it's when you can't feed your family, all hell's going to break loose.
Yeah, and I saw a little bit when Hurricane Florence came through North Carolina. Everything was shut down and there was no power in the town I was a police officer in. And within 3 or 4 days, it was the grocery stores and the Family Dollars and the Dollar Generals being broken into for food and for people to feed their family. And that was a very short-term problem. Now we're into this major pandemic, which seems to be exacerbated every day by something. I mean, we had a positive case at Camp Lejeune, which is 30 miles from where I live. One of the Marines came down with it. And I spent probably 3 hours on the CDC website tonight. And, it's only got a 14% mortality rate right now. It's really far less than 1% of the world population and the U.S. population. But the problem is, anybody who has severely diabetic, severe heart conditions, heart disease, or has any kind of breathing disease, this is the type of virus that is almost certainly going to be fatal for those people if they get it. So, everybody's got somebody like that in their family. So, it's great concern. I mean, we have a neighbor that has those conditions. So, those people are really, really the ones who are super susceptible, as the elderly and as the young are. But
right.
it's almost driven. It's strange how the economy changes. I mean, people are staying home and getting told to work from home, so they're using less fuel. So gas prices here, $1.84 a gallon, the cheapest I've seen in forever, and it's going to get lower because nobody's going to be using it, because almost everybody that has the ability to work remotely from home is being told to work from home.
Well, Q, let me cut you off for 1 second, because you were talking some interesting things that I want to break this down for our listeners and viewers. We will touch on the economy in a couple of minutes here. Let me go back. You were on the CDC website. I know you've had so many contacts and conversations, and thank you to your wife for letting you consume your entire week so you could speak to us intelligently. We appreciate it. So let me ask you this. So it's got a mortality of 14%. Is the mortality more than the seasonal flu? Yes or no?
Currently, no.
So if the mortality is not that of the seasonal flu, okay, why is this? I mean, I have my opinions. We've shared our insider information a couple of weeks ago that it was a bioweapon, and that's what the government's known. That's why everyone's shutting down left and right. If the mortality is not with the flu, is it what is the reason that the whole world is gone batshit crazy?
Well, it's typical media frenzy. The media has put out nothing but the bad and the negative news. A lot of liberal media, a lot of most newspapers and websites that you read, it's propaganda to begin with anyway, fed to by the government. And so what this has done is it's caused a massive panic. Knowing now that currently the mortality rate's not even the mortality rate of a traditional flu. Okay,
so did you hear that, everybody? You heard it from Cueball. The TruthBusters, mortality rate lower than traditional flu. You heard it here.
According to the CDC website, it is.
Okay.
And but what this has done is it's allowed the media to do what they always do, whether it's a white officer shooting a black kid, whether it's anything that they can wrap their teeth around and sink it in and create this episodic thing of mass frenzy. They're going to do, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Because Fox News, if they can't I'm not to interrupt you. I'm just so jacked up right now and scared. If Fox News can't break in with the Fox News alert with the red chyron on the screen and the music, and that it's almost like we get a jolt of dopamine, like looking at our iPhone or something. And if they can't do that once every 15 minutes, then we'll find a way to do that. So continue, please.
Sure, and what they're doing is they're raising their viewership because people will be watching cable are now putting the news on, and they're buying into it, they're feeding into it. So the news stations are doing fantastic. Their ratings are through the roof. They're exceeding every show on the cable TV right now because people are afraid to take their eyes off the news. They want to miss the next thing that they shouldn't or should do. And the media is calling all the shots in America right now.
Oh, amen. Amen.
And they know, they know what they're doing, and they lay their head on their pillow at night, and they probably sleep fine. I don't know how they could, but it's an organizational chaos. It was organized by the mass media to put out there to drive a frenzy. Sometimes I think they sit back and love to watch the people just go crazy. I really do. For their entertainment. I mean, I just don't understand it. So they've created this, there's none of those news people are, the only thing they're taking from the CDC website is what they can take out of context, and they're not reading the whole thing. They're not reading the mortality rate versus the flu. They're taking little excerpts and they're putting them out there and saying, no, they said this, they said this. Well, we know when something's taken out of context, it can be completely twisted around. And once again, the sharks are causing a feeding frenzy.
Yeah, and Nick and I earlier this week were talking to our executive producers in New York, and we said the same thing. If Fox News is going to come on and tell you that the mortality rate is lower than the flu, the average person flips the channel and starts watching, something on Netflix. But you want to keep you want to keep that person on the channel, so you're going to scare the shit out of them. And again, I don't want to risk anyone's lives here, and diminish or lower the severity and the seriousness of this virus. But I mean, bottom line is, right now, healthy people are not being put in body bags all over America and being shipped to the morgue. I mean, it's important to watch the media with that kind of the lizard eye, so to speak, as we say in the wrestling business, but realize that this is yes, more contagious than the regular flu, but not as lethal. Am I right?
Yeah, you're exactly correct. We have an old saying that believe only half of what you see and nothing of what you hear. And this is a classic example of that. And they're only trying to drive their own ratings up. And every politician is trying to use it as a platform for the election. I will give the president credit for creating a national emergency to stop price gouging.
Absolutely.
Because $3 bottles of hand sanitizers were selling for $20. And all they're doing is capitalizing on the fear instilled by the media. And that's not fair for anybody. Do business the fair way. If it's $3 and there's a profit margin in it, don't raise it up to 20 because people are scared. The media has done that. They've done it time and time again over the years. So, there was a big panic with the original SARS virus. This is at an epic level. And it's at an epic level because the truth was known in 2019 about this virus. But what happened is, I don't think any of the countries really took it serious. And so it molded and it morphed, and it started to catch on. It started to show up in different areas of the world. And then 3 months later, in March, all of a sudden we have this massive panic. If we were going to do this, it should have been done 3 months ago, when the virus was known to be in existence and the virus was known to be traveling, because anything that happens in China is going to travel. It's very simple. If it can be carried for 4 to 6 weeks before full germination of the effect of the virus, of course it's going to travel. But they've just, I mean, when I see the average person,
You're starting to break up a little bit on my end. Sorry.
Yeah. When I see that average family in a grocery store on a Friday night, filling their cart with canned goods and all the water and toilet paper they're allowed to buy. And I sit there and I think, well, first off, who's the first profiteer from this? Well, obviously it's going to be the people in the stock market. They know what stocks to buy. It's going to be the people that produce the products, and now they're going to go into full massive production and empty the warehouses. The stores are going to make a lot of money. But the trickle-down effect is, a guy like me who makes a fairly good living on Amazon, Amazon under pressure from the federal government is shutting down, 70% of their transportation, which is going to kill a guy like me who buys all these products, sends them directly to Amazon so people can have Amazon Prime. That's a worthless item if it's going to take 5 to 6 days to get something to somebody, but we spent all this money to put it in the warehouse that also comes with additional fees. So Amazon is still going to make their money. It's just, the only one's going to hurt is the people that do FBA, fulfilled by Amazon, and fill the warehouse with things. If they eventually shut down the warehouses, I don't see that happening, considering, 54% of all purchases online are done through Amazon. It's the largest search engine next to Google in the planet. I foresee that they may centralize the warehouse. They may have warehouse workers in hazmat. It's just going to take longer to get your products. But the trickle down effect affects people like us, and the inability to get into a place to buy products for normal use, not for stocking up on. I don't understand what people are stocking up on. It's kind of crazy.
Well, I don't know. Yeah,
toilet paper, bottled water, but yet the shelves are lined with paper towels, and there was still Lysol in 2 of the stores that I went into today, and I'm like, there's no water, and there's no water, there's no toilet paper, but there's plenty of Lysol. What's going on here?
Yeah, I don't understand the water. I mean, the water, when the water gets shut off, that means no one can show up to the pumping stations. That's the end of the world. So, I mean, water is going to be your last thing you're ever going to worry about. And my wife made a comment today. What about tampons? What about ibuprofen, aspirin? All these other things that you don't even, that even think about, even like soap. I saw tons of soap in the store, but no hand sanitizer. Anyway, let me get back while you were telling us about the supply chain. You are the president of the United States. Now, I want to do a really good non-nonsense hypothetical. You're the president of the United States. It's November. You hear about this virus, obviously, through your back channels, through maybe even government channels from China. Every syllable you speak, the stock market goes up or goes down. You know that we're a 3-day supply chain economy, global economy, and we've used this analogy. America is constantly sitting on top of the Washington Monument and can tip either way. In November, what would have been, and I'm not second guessing Trump here, please. Nobody could possibly foresee this was going to happen to some degree. But if you're the president in November, you start hearing about this virus, the virility of it. You're Chris Jackson. What do you do? Without trying to trigger the markets and scare crazy Nancy Pelosi and so on.
Right. The first thing that I do is create a national concern, and with my national healthcare advisor and the CDC, I immediately start to work on a vaccine for it. I don't advertise that fact, but that's my first thing. Second thing I do is I pass down to the media that it might be a good idea next week that everybody pick up an extra hand sanitizer or an extra Lysol or something like that, just an extra one to have in the house. I don't create panic at the last minute and tell everybody that's what they should buy. I do tell them it's a national concern. We're doing everything in our power to isolate the virus and work on a vaccine for the virus. But at this point, the mortality rate is less than the annual flu. So there's nothing for America to panic or worry about. That's the first thing. I don't want people panicking. I don't want to get to a point where I have to states start having to create state of emergencies, and then I have to create a national emergency. I want to gently get the point across, just to be diligent, and just that, when you're out in public, you get in your vehicle, sanitize your hands, nothing special. Just make sure you do it. I know you're probably like me. When I go into the grocery store, the first thing I do is pull that antibacterial wipe and clean down the cart anyway before I'll even push it through the store. Just reminders to do things like that, and to let America know that this new strain of virus is out there. But at this particular point, it's no worse than an annual flu, and we're working on a vaccine for it right now. And I try to create awareness without creating madness. And that's the fine line for a president to create awareness without going overboard and creating this complete madness and lunacy. The Fed offering 0% interest rates and quantifying mortgage bonds that haven't been done in years and things like that. Because when you wait to a point where it's global before you take it seriously and advise your people, the panic is already going to be there. And the media It's like sharks with a wounded seal, man. They see this and they just, exploit, exploit, exploit. And it's almost like the media and the politicians are puppeteers and we're the puppets. I want to create awareness without panic. And I don't want to use the word epidemic or pandemic at any point. I just want to create awareness. And what happened is I believe that it wasn't taken serious enough until places like Italy and Iran had to shut down their borders. Air France quit flying to China. I mean, it's too late at that point to create awareness. You're going to just create panic with anything that comes out of your mouth as the president of the United States.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, but, I'm 53 years old. I'm not the president of the United States. And for maybe, 15 years, I've been waiting for this pandemic to happen. We've seen bursts with SARS and MERS. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, but in November, if I'm hearing a new virus, bing, the red flag goes up. A new virus out of China, double bing, 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 is going through the country. Maybe that is the time, knowing that it's too late at some certain point. I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe in November, a travel ban from anybody from China who has been in China in the past 3 weeks coming into the United States. And you might take some heat from that. But by not doing that, which we didn't, now here's where we're at. And we knew this was going to come. We knew what a pandemic is. A pandemic is not a pandemic. You have to make the tough decision 2 months prior, when people are calling you a mother effer and President Jon Stewart or Chris Jackson is crazy. How could you stop flights from China? The global this, the global that. We all worry about the news and the news cycle and the pundits and our reelection and our where we are in the polls. And the bottom line is that happens when you worry. And I don't even know if we'll have a second chance at this again. And I mean, how many people, again, if you want me to completely throw myself in I'm a ding-a-ling car dealer, bashed in the head 70 million times, ex-pro wrestler, and college high school football player, that I've been hit in the head so many times I can't even think straight. However, again, for the past 10 years, just by watching TV, watching the internet, reading the articles, every person and their mother telling you we're overdue on the next pandemic. The last one was 1918 Spanish flu. It's every 100 years. We're overdue. We're overdue. We're overdue. Like clockwork, we got one from China, new virus, and we drag our feet and we this and that, and send over a couple of virologists. I mean, I'm sorry. My point is, and I'm not going to go on and on. When Jon Stewart is smarter than the government, you got freaking problems. And I'm throwing myself into the books. I'm not, hey, that's what the president is. You make some tough decisions that might cause, I forget who told me this, but they had the greatest line in the world. The best president in the world, or a really, really good president, makes decisions and makes choices that might end his term or end his not get him re-election. Let's go back to Nick, London in Canada. Nick, what do you have anything to say about that? If you're sitting in the White House or in Parliament in Canada, or you're the UK Prime Minister, somebody tells you new virus in China. I mean, it's got all the flags of a National Geographic, Armageddon type docudrama. What do you do?
The thing is I was one of those people that thought it was just ha ha. I didn't think a whole lot into it. It was my mother-in-law that really had shown me over and over. And then when I started seeing it happen right in front of me, my issue is the media. The media. Do I think they're taking it serious? I've heard Donald Trump's speeches. I think that he may want to take a step back for a minute and look at the situation. Is it, is it overdue? Yeah, the last one was the Spanish flu. Um,
Right.
you know what? You don't need to go crazy. I mean, I'm a big believer in wash your hands and clean up after yourself. I mean, just be careful. There's no reason to go completely nuts over it. Q, you said it. It's still not as bad as the general flu. I mean, as far as deaths. So, I mean, let's just, for a minute, we'll just look at it, big ball, and we'll take it day by day. We'll see what happens with it. But for right
Yeah.
now, the media has got people
Right.
terrified,
Right.
absolutely petrified. And I think it's ridiculous. It's that bad.
Yeah. Q, do you agree? Do you agree that state of Illinois is closing all the schools? State of Illinois is closing restaurants now, and only can get takeout and online ordering to try and stem the curve. I mean, are we taking the correct steps right now?
Well, the thing is that the statistic that's a giveaway to me is why is the number of confirmed cases lower than the total number of cases? There's a reason why the confirmed number of cases is lower than the total number of cases, because some people are getting this, and to them it is so mild they don't know they have it. Some people get the COVID-19 virus, and they think they have a cold or they have a minor normal flu. When you have a situation where you have a number of confirmed cases is lower than the number of total cases, what that statistic tells me is there are many, many people who get this that it's so mild they don't even know they have it.
Sure.
So until that statistic is every confirmed case matches up with every total number of cases, then to me, that would be the scare factor. That would be the panic factor. But when there's such a great difference between the total number of confirmed and total cases reported, to me that tells me that there's a lot of people that this is not even seriously affecting any more than a normal cold or a normal flu. So that's non-panic mode for me. But you have to explain, and this is from the World Health Organization, but you have to be able to explain that to people. And that's not been explained to people thoroughly, because that would reduce exactly what the media wanted, which is panic, bedlam, mayhem, confusion, hysteria. That's what they feed on.
Sounds like a wrestling promoter in the 80s.
Yes. Everything's an angle. And with these guys,
keep the boys fighting amongst themselves.
Right, exactly. It's exactly what it is. Hey, I heard your ex-wife went out with so and so, and that pissed you off.
Yeah,
it does, man. Okay, let's make an angle out of it.
Right.
And the angle has been created in my mind, and that's why I'm not at a point where I'm willing to buy into the excessive hysteria and the excessive panic, because of the fact that the confirmed number is not matching the number reported.
But however, Q,
it's dangerous.
For the truth, right? We got to look out for our listeners. You don't buy into the hype. I don't basically right now buy into the hype. However, everyone else is buying into the hype. So do you go stock up? Do you go get the ammunition? Do you sit down your children and tell them what's going on? Not based on what reality is, because I've been a politician for 20 years and a pro wrestler for 30 years. Reality is meaningless. Perception is reality. So answer that for our listeners. I mean, you and I and Nick, our producer, believe that it's not as bad as it seems, but obviously the rest of the country is not on the same page.
Well, let me let y'all. They can all settle down by this. The World Health Organization. I got the report in front of me right now. The United States. It talks about the total number of confirmed cases and how long it takes to double. It takes 4 days, United States. Now, as of let me get the exact time, 10 a.m. Central Time on March 15th. Total number of cases, is it right? What is today, 15th? That is up to date. That is up to date information. There was a grand total of 1,678 cases at 10 a.m. this morning. Daily new confirmed cases today, 0. So up until today, there was 1,678 total cases. 0. Let me give you another example. Germany, 3,795 total cases at 10 o'clock this morning. Currently, 733 new ones.
Wow.
France, 4,469 as of this morning. Today, 829 new cases. Spain, this is a staggering statistic. Spain, they had 5,753 total as of this morning. They had 1,522 new today. The U.S. has 0 new cases today and a grand total of only 1,678. Do you realize that Spain had almost as many cases pop up today as we have entirely, and we're much larger? So, and that's what I explained about the panic. The U.S. is taking great pains in getting people to wash their hands more often, to sanitize their hands, to make that point. The key points that have been made, and made by federal government officials over and above before the news media got a hold of it, was just simply the same thing that we were talked to about at the police department yesterday. Be more vigilant in your hand sanitizing and washing your hands. When coming in contact with someone, we're going into a public place. When you leave, before your hands touch your face, make sure they are sanitized. And you should be fine. And the fact that, we have, in the world, there was one, and this is another statistic that I love as far as the statistics worldwide. Let me pull that up. That's staggering. Now, this is going to be the worldwide, so everybody's got to take this into consideration before I talk about the breakdown. In the world, there's been 153,523 total cases. Today, there was 10,968 new cases. Every country in the world had new cases show up today, except for the United States of America. We have taken this seriously enough where people are doing the necessities they need to do to keep from spreading the virus. So, that's great news for the U.S. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep washing your hands. Go out only when you have to. And here's a staggering statistic. China had 81,048 total cases. Today, they've only had 27 new cases.
Now, okay, Nick, hold on, Q. Nick, how many cases are we looking at in Canada right now?
In Canada,
313.
it says Canada is completely wiped out. It doesn't exist anymore. I'm sorry, Nick. Canada has a total of 244 total in the whole country, and today they had 68 new ones break out.
Yeah, we have 313 that have been diagnosed. Now, Q, I wanted to say something, and then I want you guys to talk about it just for a minute.
Sure.
Q, you had said about how there were no positives today about the coronavirus in the U.S. Now, the other day, listening to CNN, and this is where I want you guys to talk about it, they had said there's not enough kits to be testing people, that they were turning people away because they didn't have the tests. And I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that. I heard that, and that's why I just thought I'm going to throw that in there and just see what you think.
Well, all I can speak for is the U.S., and I know with a small amount of confirmed cases that they still have plenty of tests available for people. You just have to make sure that you call whatever facility you're going to go to ahead of time and make sure they have them. But, Saudi Arabia is another place that had, I'm sorry, let me get this right. It's the United Arab Emirates at 85. They have no new ones today. Thailand has no new ones today and only 75 total. Iraq, 93 total, 0 today. Egypt, 93 total, 0 today. So there's a lot of places that this is not spreading. But even if you look at the most severe, okay, and the most severe, of course, being what? China. If you look at the most severe at the top of the chart, 81,048 total, but only 27 new cases today.
Well, that's cases that have been tested. Nick, I can answer. My opinion on what you asked is that that there's obviously way more new cases. We just don't have the testing ability to bring those out to the forefront for positive identification. But I think I think the ones that are tested is a pretty decent snapshot of what is going on in the country. So to me, I would use that. I would extrapolate those numbers. You know, if I had 20 new cases in America, I would probably extrapolate to the fact that maybe, 100 new people have been infected because we have so few test kits and people are staying home or told not even to go to the hospital. So I just think you'd have to extrapolate those numbers to find out, or to gauge, what is really going on. And until we get full testing capabilities, which who knows when that'll be,
And
I don't know what the answer is.
If we look at the 1,678 cases, no tests, if this were to double in size to 3,300, say, it would take 4 days for that to do it if people continued doing what they're doing. But with people being allowed to work remotely, people not going out, people sanitizing their hands immediately, people washing their clothes as soon as they come in the house, they go in the washer. The things that you really need to do. And if you don't have hand sanitizer, like John just said, take a bottle of tap water and a bar of soap and wash your hands. I mean, that's not rocket science. You don't need hand sanitizer to survive. But the thing that I think is important is that say there's no new test cases and we couldn't diagnose any today. In the whole 330 million people in the United States of America, 1,678 people have been confirmed with this virus. That's not an extremely high amount of people. Do that percentage on your calculator. I get like 16 zeros before I get to a number. So
right.
But we do want to advise all of our listeners to be diligent. Go out only when you need to go out. Make sure your vehicles are full of gas. Make sure that you stock up on canned goods. Make sure that if you can't hand sanitizer, buy bar soap. It does a great job. Bleach will also disinfect things and kill a lot of viruses. It won't kill all of them like antibacterial Lysol, but it kills a lot of them. People use bleach for years. It's not anything new. It's cheap, and it works if you need it. Make sure if you go out in public and you have a lot of contact, when you come in your house, you go straight to where your laundry is, take your clothes off, put them in the washer, and wash that load of clothes if you've been outside. Just do common sense things. And if everybody does those common sense things and doesn't panic, you don't need to stock up 800 rolls of toilet paper. Trust me, you don't need to do it. It's not. Trucks come every day. And even with the cutback on the trucking, it means instead of 14 trucks going to Walmart this week, 12 will go, 10 will go, 9 will go. Enough with Walmart's smart. When they're out of toilet paper, they don't order dog food. They order toilet paper from the warehouse.
Right.
These people do this for a living. Right. So there's no need to panic, but there is a need to be vigilant, knowledgeable. Go to the CDC and Center of Disease Control and go to their website. Go to the World Health Organization, to their website. Don't go to some website that's going to spread panic and hysteria. It's not going to help you. Go to the proper website. WHO, World Health Organization, CDC. Go there and get your information. Don't get it from the guy on the news who wants you, when the news is over, to shit your pants and not leave the TV in case there's a bulletin. That's not what you need to do right now.
Yeah, great words. That's probably the best advice I've heard all week, and certainly our listeners and viewers are tantamount to the reason why we do this show. I had a couple of things, and last week I was telling everyone in my daily life, who thought I was, full of hyperbole and hyperbolic on this whole what's going on. And I asked them, I said, well, how does it stop? How does the virus stop multiplying? And that really, everybody was like, well, a virus just doesn't go away on its own. I hate to tell you the answer. And I said, how it stops is limiting the contact, shutting down industries, and we're doing that. And again, we're the TruthBusters. I got to call. Got to give the devil its due. United States is doing it right. I think our governor of Illinois should shut down the airports. I mean, we're still letting people come in and out of Chicago or North Carolina or New York. I mean, do I say shut down air travel? Yes. If you're going to shut down restaurants and schools, why are you still letting people cross-contaminate? You have to understand something. The problem with the virus is that someone takes it from the city and brings it to the country. The city mouse brings it to the country mouse. And the only way you let them do that is by getting into an airplane and by continually. So I say shut down air travel. Sorry, it's got to be done. My second thing is this: I heard the greatest, and Q, I hope we bring this up numerous times. Next week, the following week, I heard a virologist on CNN. The best thing I've heard in 3 months of this pandemic was, folks, this is not a blizzard. It's not going to melt in 3 days. And we go back to working, shutting down a school for 2 weeks. This thing incubates for 30 freaking days and you're asymptomatic, no symptoms. So we've got to do things, shut things down for 30, 60, even 90 days if possible. Because again, this is not a blizzard. It's not going to go away in 3 days. I hate to say that. People have been telling us our lives are never going to be the same. They're going to change. Get ready. Again, this is not a blizzard. And
no,
go ahead.
If I can interrupt you for a second, it's a cockroach.
No, go ahead, please.
It's a cockroach. You put a male and a female cockroach in a room with food and darkness, you come back in a month and you have 400,000 cockroaches.
Yeah.
That's what this virus is. And until there's a vaccine, and not only a vaccine, but enough made, which has always been the problem with flu vaccines, is just getting enough flu vaccine during a bad flu out there. Once it's made, and the CDC I know is working with the best biochemists and people in the medical industry all over the world, and there will be a vaccine for it eventually. But getting it out there in mass quantities is important too.
Well, how do you do that? How do you determine who's going to get the? I looked at my friends. I'm like, who's 7 billion people in the world?
I'll give you the pecking order by level of importance and control versus going to martial law. First, doctors, nurses, and hospital staff.
Okay, good point.
We need them. We have to have them, or people will die.
Okay.
Then you go to the first responders, the ambulance and the fire, to pick up the sick people and transport them. Okay. And lastly, you go to the police departments who take people sick into custody. And then you go to the elderly and the youth, and then you do the rest of the people aged 20 to 60. That's my opinion of the pecking order of the virus being given out.
Another Cueball, great statement. That's great. That's really interesting. Interesting.
It's been around for a long. Listen, they did it on the Titanic. Women and children first, right?
Yeah.
That's really what it's saying is the first responders, because they need to take care of these people, and then you give it to kids, and then you give it to the elderly, and then if you have to pass it out by sex, you give it to the women first, and then the men get it last. That's that simple.
Yeah. When you see Italy, that's the country shut down. They're keeping the grocery stores and the pharmacies open. There's not any panic. Game plan this for me, General Cueball in the bunker. I mean, are you on my page? Nick London's laughing in Canada, but game plan this out. I'm John F. Kennedy. I'm at the conference table. Castro's. Khrushchev is ready to launch his missiles. Should we quarantine? Game plan this out for your president. Is it? We suspend mortgages. We suspend people's electric getting shut off, and we make sure we got food to the grocery stores and the grocery and pharmacy still open. Is that how we're going to avoid panic like Italy? What say you?
Well, I walked into my local pharmacy yesterday, and two people behind the desk were wearing respirators, and
Yeah,
because
I don't blame them.
yeah, it's a great idea. Even if it's just a medical mask respirator that they wear in surgery,
Sure, sure.
those things are great. I'm not want to create a mass hysteria on buying these things, but it's a great idea for pharmacy staff to wear them. Right now, it's a great idea for all medical staff and nursing and doctors to wear those. I know that I have a box in the trunk of my patrol car. I always have had, just in case somebody's infected with something, along with, we call it PPE, personal protection equipment, goggles, Nilatex gloves, things like that.
Okay.
I think those people need to be suited for battle, and I think suited for battle is respirators, gloves, smocks that they take off at the end of the day and wash. I think those simple things right there, you can keep the necessaries open. You got to keep the food chain, or you'll have martial law and worse. So the food and water chain's got to keep going. I have great tap water here. Very unlikely that it would get shut down because it's a gravity feed system. It uses very little electricity. When our electricity goes out, we still have tap water. So I'm not worried about water, but what I'm concerned with is we need to keep the food flowing so people don't panic. Because when people go into the grocery store and there's no food left on the shelves, or no toilet paper and no water, they're freaking out because they're like, oh my God, where can I go to get it? And once again, the hysteria that the media has fed us is doing exactly that. It's making that hysteria go from a 1 to an 8, and it's eventually going to go to a 10. So, I don't profess to have the answers, but for the people working in the pharmaceutical field and the medical field, personal protection equipment first until we have a vaccine for it.
But you agree that what Italy is doing is obviously working. There's no panicking. There's no rioting. When you have to go get groceries, you get in you go get groceries, and yeah.
Oh yeah. Closing grocery stores is not an option unless the government wants to be overthrown. Because if you read the Constitution correctly and don't bastardize it, the military of the United States does not side with the government; it sides with the people. So there will be an immense overthrow of the United States government by violent methods if they shut down the food stores and the supply chain. Trust me. I remember Manassas, Virginia, 101st Militia. They will be assembled. There are organizations across this country that with a phone call can be assembled. So, right. And that's what would happen if they shut down the food supply. Because, people, what are we going to do? Turn into zombies and eat each other like those post-apocalyptic movies? Probably not.
You and I are in wrestling. I sent out a video yesterday. I got condemned and applauded for it. That I think wrestling promotions need to shut down their live events for 90 days. I sent Bruce Pritchard of the WWE a text a few minutes ago. Have not heard back from him. Do you hear anything blowing in the wind? We see all these professional sports leagues close, which that blows my mind. Wait a minute. Is WWE going on with WrestleMania or not?
Well, the wrestlers themselves do not want to wrestle in front of a crowd full of people. So that I believe that'll be closed due to the lack of performers available. Hey, Nick, do you know anything more about that? You're in the loop. What's going on?
So the last thing I read was that the Tampa Bay mayor was going to wait, and basically what I read was that if the WWE and Vince McMahon did not make the call, then he would. Because obviously...
Okay, so it's over.
Yeah, I mean,
that's good.
I know for me, obviously, yeah, I want to see it. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I'm very excited, and I love the whole weekend. But if it doesn't happen, man, it's for the right reasons, and I'll just have to wait. It's life. Life.
Well, yeah, Q and Nick, I was saying too that if you're canceling live events, thank God to some degree, sports entertainment. I mean, will you slap me the next time I say that? Pro wrestling.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh my God.
Thank
Pro
you.
wrestling is basically a TV product now. So there's a million things you could do. You could play old matches and have two of your funnier wrestlers, cut up the old guys from the 70s like Mystery Science Theater 3000 where they cut down old TV or movies, bad
Love
movies.
that.
You could
Love
have
that.
you could have vignettes out the Yahoo. ESPN is talking about this. What are we going to do? We could talk about the NFL draft and so on and so forth. So I think, yeah, they're going to have to think out of the box, but I don't think it's going to be hard for pro wrestling companies to fill the time. You're going to have to be a little creative. What do you think about that?
I think they should do production videos, and they should do an hour dedicated matches to the great wrestlers that have worked in the business that have passed away.
Yeah.
I think that would fill 3 hours twice a week, and I think that would also make them look amazing to people who care about professional wrestling. I know it would earn my respect if they would do something like that. Don't show me WrestleMania from 15 years ago. Show me an hour on Dusty Rhodes. Show me an hour on the Roddy Piper and guys like that. Show me an hour on those King Kong Bundy. Let me see that you actually really care over and above a mention, a small vignette, and a 10-bell salute. I want to see that. So, I think, but that makes way too much sense sometimes for the head of WWE, and but that would be great. But yeah, they need to. I mean, anything public goes without saying. Any sporting event absolutely needs to be canceled right now, because think of it this way: if you have a sporting event and one child gets infected, one grandmother of 8 gets infected, one athlete gets affected, and one of those people die, was it worth it? Absolutely not.
No.
I'm in a business. The preservation of life is everything.
Yeah.
So, that's the way I think everybody should feel.
You could do the I Quit match with Tully Blanchard and Magnum TA and bring them into the studio and have them talk. If you could fill 2 hours on that in a heartbeat, I encourage and I hope AEW, All Japan, and WWE start to think out of the box and don't panic and just fill that programming with things that I think all wrestling fans would like to see. I'm sure they can figure it out. They've got legions of writers and producers and whatnot.
And that's the problem. And when writers replaced bookers, the business went in the toilet. But
that's true. But now the writers are going to have to do their job.
Think of it this way. Imagine if every week an hour of television was dedicated to the history, the guys who made history, the Luthezes, the Gene Kaninskis, the Killer Kowalskis, guys like that. If an hour of that was dedicated to them, I could tell WWE their network subscription would double, because they would get guys like me.
I was just going to say that, right? That'll support people going to the network, right?
Yeah, they're all catering to one style of person, and there's only so many of those people out there.
Of course.
So, and you can go on there and you can dig in and you can find some of those old matches, but I'm talking about a solid hour on one guy. You could probably do 10 hours on Roddy Piper and split it up. A bar and name brand bleach for $1 a gallon. Get some.
Well, I wanted to say this at the end of the show. I've talked to 2 virologists. I researched the Spanish flu all week, and what I was told is very scary. And we tell people the truth here. The 2 virologists said this quote: "It's not the virus that's happening now you have to worry about. It is the virus, the coronavirus, when it reconstitutes and mutates and comes back in the fall." This happened in the Spanish flu. This happened in the swine flu. It's the first, it's like the first into the breach with the soldiers. They pull back. And when this virus comes back in the fall, folks, that's when, all of us here at TruthBusters want you to pay attention. Be safe out there. Wash your hands. Keep watching the news with that lizard eye, that discerning eye. We love you all. We want you all to be safe. And thank you again for joining us from North Carolina and Chicago. This is Johnny Stewart and our pilot, Cueball Carmichael, Nick London from Canada. Thank you, Will Jones, our intern, was awesome this week. Thank you to all of the people that helped us in our research this week also. And
Rhiannon Jackson did a lot of research. Our other intern, Rhiannon Jackson, did a lot of research, so thank her.
Rihanna, thank you so much. I forgot. I'm sorry. Appreciate it. This is the TruthBusters telling you not their truth, the truth. Join us next Sunday. Be safe, everyone. God bless you. God bless America. Thank you.